Symbology of the Bible, Volume 2. Honey. Honey was previously discussed as representing the sweet word, but when Samson slew the lion, he also partook of the honey. Judges 14 verse 8. And after a time he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of a lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees, and honey in the carcass of the lion. 9. And he took thereof in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of the carcass of a lion. It seems odd to consume honey out of an animal carcass, and there was enough to bring home. However, he did not tell his parents where it came from. There is a characteristic of honey that may help us to understand the verses above. It is the product of the work of bees, and others come along and take it. An invader that takes the spoils after defeating an opponent is harvesting the work of the defeated, taking their honey. In his travels, Samson came up against a young Philistine, no doubt trying to make a name for himself, an idolater and enemy that would fall into the category of lion. Samson brought the spoils of his victory home, and his parents accepted them. However, Samson kept from them the source of the honey he had acquired. Perhaps they would have refused the spoils from a Philistine and admonish him for bringing them to their place. This is the other symbology of honey, the spoils obtained from the work of others. A look at verse 8 above.
After. H 4480. Part of from, above, among, because of, root, musical chord. Time, H 3117. A day, a space of time, root, be hot. Returned, H 7725. Turn back, turn away, retreat. Take, H 3947. Take, accept, bring, buy, carry away. Aside, H 5493. Turn off, behead, bring, call back, decline, depart. See, H 7200. See, advise self, appear, approve, behold. Carcass, H 4658. Fall, decadence, a ruin, carcass. Root, to fall. Lion, H 738. A lion. Root, pluck. Behold, H 2009. Hinna. Lo, see. Swarm, H 5712. Assemblage, concourse, a family, crowd. Root, witness, prince. Bees, H 1682. Deborah, the bee. Root, speak, subdue, appoint. Honey, H 1706. Honey, syrup, honeycomb. Root, gummy. Carcass, H 1472. Body, alive or dead. Carcass, corpse. Root, the back of a person. Lion, H 738. A lion. Root, pluck.
It is interesting that the KJV translators translated two different words as carcass. In Hebrew, the first occurrence refers to the fall or defeat of the lion, and the swarm suggests a family, crowd, or even a prince. We should keep in mind that Samson would most likely have been traveling with a troop or company of soldiers. He was, after all, fighting the Philistines for 40 years. Also, Deborah, another judge previously, was contemporary with Samson, and she also fought the Philistines during her time. According to some sources, Deborah died circa 1067 BC, and the time of Samson's engaging the Philistines is 40 years from 1118 to 1078 BC, which would be 1078 to 1038 BC, and he was judge for 20 of those. It is possible to interpret the verses above as a metaphor. Samson turned back to return to the ruins of the Philistines' estate, to carry away the spoils, and behold, the family of Deborah was there, also taking spoils from the dead lion. Another place where honey can be found is here. Exodus 3 verse 8, "And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites." The Hebrew for come down has been seen before. Yarad.
H3381. Yarad. A primitive root, to descend, literally to go downwards, or conventionally to a lower region as the shore, a boundary, the enemy, etc., or figuratively to fall. Causatively to bring down in all the above applications. Bring down, carry down, cast down, cause to come down, coming down, fall, fall down, etc., etc.
It is the descender who came down to this earth, the lower region, relative to a higher dimension. The verse above does not literally mean honey. Why would the availability of honey be an enticement? The children occupied that land at one time, and now the idolaters and Geber occupied it. The natural result of conquering those peoples is to gain possession of their substance, their honey. Also for milk we have
Chalav. H2461. Halab. Milk, as the richness of kine. Etymology, from the same as H2459. KJV, plus cheese, milk, sucking. And H2459.
Chalav.
Halab. Fat, whether literally or figuratively. Hence, the richest or choice part. Etymology, from an unused root meaning to be fat.
the land of milk and honey is a metaphor for a rich land with spoils. The promise to reoccupy their original land after leaving the land of Ur, the land of idolatry, and the original Nephilim is also written of here. Leviticus 20 verse 24, "But I have said unto you, ye shall inherit their land, and I will give it unto you, to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, which have separated you from other people." 25. Ye shall therefore put difference between clean beasts and unclean, and between unclean fowls and clean. And ye shall not make your souls abominable by beast, or by fowl, or by any manner of living thing that creepeth on the ground, which I have separated from you, as unclean. After a few centuries of absence from the land, those who claimed it would obviously consider it their own, and the youngest of the children would have no knowledge of the land other than what was propagated by the older generations. However, we have come upon another topic in the verses above. We go from people to beasts. In verse 24, Yahweh informs the children that he has separated them from other peoples, idol worshippers, and unclean people. Then the subject switches to beasts that Yahweh has separated them from. While it seems appropriate to admonish them to keep from unclean peoples and creatures, given the extensive and certain symbologies, these beasts can be considered to represent types of individuals. In the Hebrew, we may consider verse 24 as saying they have been separated as his people, and the clean and unclean in verse 25 indicate, in a moral and religious sense. Recall Barnabas' words. Barnabas 10:3, accordingly, he mentioned the swine, with this intent. Thou shalt not cleave, saith he, to such men who are like unto swine. That is, when they are in luxury, they forget the Lord, but when they are in want, they recognize the Lord, just as the swine, when it eateth, knoweth not his Lord, but when it is hungry, it crieth out, and when it has received food, again it is silent. Another occurrence of honey is found here. Ezekiel 20 verse 15, Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. 16. Because they despised my judgments and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols. Here, Yahweh describes the milk and honey, and possibly the land, as the glory of all lands. The glory is given by Strong as
Tsebi, Tsebi, from H6638, in the sense of prominence, splendor, as conspicuous. Also a gazelle, as beautiful, beautiful, beauty, glorious, glory, goodly, pleasant, roebuck.
The primary application is prominence, splendor, which obviously would not mean the honey obtained from a honeycomb. The root is
Sabah,
to amass, i.e. grow turgid, specifically to array an army against.
turgid, means to be swollen, or can mean pompous, in the way of a swollen ego. In either case, the honey of a land in most cases symbolizes the fatness, the fruitfulness, and the production of substance, as the bees, by their industry, produce the honeycomb. The Hebrew for honey is devash, which is a compound of deb plus ash. These two are
Dove, the bear, as slow. Etymology, from H1680. And
Ish,
a man as an individual, or a male person, a mortal.
This can indicate bearish men/people, and would be appropriate, since they in fact did occupy the land vacated by the children generations before, and thus moved into the already existing settlements, infrastructure, etc., taking the honey of whatever may have remained of the children. In fact, there is a species of brown bear, the Syrian brown bear, whose habitat includes the Levant, as shown below. And sources say this about brown bears. Researchers claim that most types of bears will seek out beehives for the honey, but the black bear and brown bears are said to love it the most. In fact, they will devour the beehive and the bees in addition to the honeycomb. The appropriateness of the symbology of honey is, on the one hand, it represents the spoils obtained when conquering an occupied land, but on the other, the honey itself was obtained by the bears who came into the land prior. The symbology of honey is a good example of just how intricate the word is and the deeper roots that are therein, sweet words, spoils, and possessed by bears.